It's been one heck of a year in British politics.
One long waffle bomb.
She's completely losing the plot.
I'm an insomniac.
This is madness.
There's been resignations.
This was an honestly made mistake.
Scandals.
Had I known then what I know now, I'd have never appointed him.
And even a few tears. But what were the most shocking political moments of 2025? Here's the selections of our ITV Westminster team.
In a year of extraordinary moments, arguably one of the most fascinating periods was when the government lost 3 senior figures within the space of 3 weeks. The first was the Deputy Prime Minister Angela Rayner, a huge figure within the cabinet who had to step down because she hadn't paid the right amount of stamp duty.
There is no excuse not to pay taxes owed, and I will do so. This was an honestly made mistake, but when you make a mistake, you take responsibility.
And soon after, it was then the turn of the former, or at the time, the US Ambassador Lord Mandelson. He had to move away from his role because of his connections to the disgraced financier and convicted paedophile Jeffrey Epstein.
Had I known then what I know now, I'd have never appointed him.
He said that he felt utterly awful about his association with Epstein, but had no alternative to accepting the Prime Minister's decision.
If you thought that wasn't enough, it was then some ITV News journalism that resulted in the Director of Strategy of Number 10 having to step down. I revealed conversations he had had many years ago when he was working for the Labour Party on an internal messaging system. They were proven to be misogynistic and at times highly offensive.
Mr. Ovenden said he was truly, deeply sorry for the incident and the hurt it will cause.
When he stepped down, that was the third person, and there was a lot of pressure building on Number 10.
I have to leave a legacy.
Reform UK's party conference was shocking in itself because for such a young political party, it was well organised and well attended, which is more than Jeremy Corbyn's Your Party can say. This conference cemented Farage and fans as a mainstream political party, meaning there was plenty of shocking moments. But for me, the most shocking moment was learning that the Mayor of Greater Lincolnshire was formerly an aspiring pop star who struggled to sleep.
I'm an insomniac. I'm an insomniac. Staring at the ceiling, waiting for my thoughts to switch off. Yes, I'm an insomniac.
You don't have the cards right now. With us, you start having cards. Right now, you don't. You're playing cards.
Hands down, the most shocking moment of 2025 for me, and one that happened early on in the year, had profound implications for the UK. It overturned all the norms of political diplomacy and was a stark indication of the US turning inwards and away from Europe. And that was President Trump's ambush of President Zelensky in the Oval Office.
And what you're doing is very disrespectful to the country, this country. That's back to you.
Up until that point, the Ukrainian leader had been accorded such respect in Western capitals, but here he was humiliated by President Trump and Vice President Vance for not expressing enough gratitude, down to even the clothes that he was wearing. In the aftermath, the Prime Minister made a point of inviting President Zelensky to Downing Street, even hugging him in the street outside, and the King hosted him in Sandringham. But if anyone had any lingering hope that the US would continue to be Ukraine's biggest supporter, or even to continue to have Europe's back, that was really the moment that it went up in smoke and insults.
You're not acting at all thankful, and that's not a nice thing.
For me, the biggest political moment of the year is when we saw the Chancellor Rachel Reeves crying in the Commons. Now, this was back in July. Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer was stood at the dispatch box during PMQs, but all eyes were on Rachel Reeves as she was silently crying behind him. Now, this moment sparked speculation that either she had resigned or had been sacked, particularly as it followed the government's U-turn on welfare reforms. And this speculation only ramped up when Sir Keir Starmer failed to guarantee her position as he was addressing MPs MPs in the Commons. Now, this was clearly a moment of distress for Rachel Reeves. Her aides put it down to a personal matter, but this moment really solidified her political position, because amidst all of this speculation, the markets really went into free-for-all. The value of the pound went down, the cost of government borrowing went up. The markets made clear that what they needed from this government was stability at the top. They made clear that they perhaps trusted Rachel Reeves, or at the very least were concerned about any prospects of what a new successor would mean for tax and spend. And this moment forced the Prime Minister to robustly defend Rachel Reeves. He even went as far to say that the pair were in lockstep, and I think after this moment it became clear to everyone in Westminster that the fate of the Prime Minister and the fate of his Chancellor were going to be closely intertwined in the months ahead.
Reform UK is preparing for government.
One of my most shocking political moments of the year was the resignation and then unresignation, less than 48 hours later, of the Reform UK chair, Zia Yusuf. When he quit the party, he put out a statement saying that working to get Reform elected was no longer a good use of my time. This all came just days after he had criticised Reform's newest MP at the time, Sarah Pochin, calling her dumb for her calls during Prime Minister's questions for the burqa to be banned in the UK. 2 days later, he rejoined Reform UK. He said that he was exhausted when he'd quit the party, and that decision was a mistake. It was a pretty incredible turnaround, but it was symbolic of one of the challenges that Reform UK and Nigel Farage, in fact, has faced throughout his political career, and that is the infighting and arguing within his parties, something that he's going to have to get a grip of if, as he says he wants to be, he is to become Prime Minister.
The thing that has absolutely gobsmacked me in 2025 that made me gasp was the Afghan data leak that we found out about in the summer. And this was so shocking because I had found out on the Monday, I think it was, the day before, that there was going to be a significant speech to Parliament from the Defence Secretary, but I wasn't able to get anyone to tell me anything about what it was about. Nobody in the MOD would tell me. They all went very, very quiet. I ended up talking to other journalists about it, some of whom it later transpired knew about it, but weren't allowed to tell me because they were subject to this super injunction. So when it finally emerged that the government had been running a massive secret relocation scheme for all these Afghans, certainly when that eventually came out, that had been going on for years, it was a shocker and a half.
My most shocking political moment of the year? I mean, what would you choose? There have been quite a few. I think I would weirdly go for the day that Rachel Reeves called in Britain's media to tell them, apparently, that she was going to break a manifesto promise on not raising income tax, and then didn't actually manage to say it, and then didn't do it.
We will all have to contribute to that effort. Each of us must do our bit.
And I think the reason why I would pick that is it's kind of representative of an awful lot of stuff that's been going on with this government. I just assumed they were going to be better at politics. And you just think politicians that are doing well in the world are people, whether you like it or not, who are seen as authentic, who are telling it like it is. Everyone knows why you've called people in. Why wouldn't you just say it? And then having said it, why wouldn't you do it? Or, I mean, the whole thing was a mess. I found that a bit shocking.
These days, I'm not that easily shocked, just because since the global financial crisis of 2007-8, we've seen so much happen, particularly in the world of politics, that one thought would never happen. But right now, yeah, there is something big on my mind, which I regard as jaw-dropping, which is that we have a Prime Minister, 17 months after he won a general election by an absolute landslide, who is currently, I think actually opinion polls say he is the least popular Prime Minister in history. And when I talk to his MPs, when I talk to his ministers, they sort of take it for granted that there's going to be a leadership challenge. And I mean, they're not saying that there's going to be one next week, but they're all desperately fearful that the elections in Scotland for a parliament, in Wales for a parliament, and the local elections, they think they're going to be absolutely disastrously poor for Labour. They fear that, many MPs will at that point think they're going to lose their seats, be out of a job at the next election. At that point, they expect all hell to break loose, and for there to be a challenge to the Prime Minister's leadership. Now, this is just, it is extraordinary for this to be where we are now, this kind of instability, for a government that has this kind of majority. So that is absolutely astonishing, not something I've ever seen before, and it's going to define, I'm afraid, my life in 2026, and probably your lives too.